A young man came to a Detroit psychiatric hospital desperately in need of treatment, but within a day of being discharged, he would take his own life.
The hospital is the same one that's gotten the attention of 7 investigator Ross Jones before. Ross joins us now with what he's uncovered. Ross?
Ellen Glenda, this story is about what happened to Nasir Landrum and the system that failed to stop it. This story begins where it ended.
Detroit 911 was the address of the emergency.
On a sunny morning in June along the Detroit River, where the tortured life of 29-year-old Nasir Landrum would see its end.
He climbed over the barrier. He stood by the edge. Somebody told him to come back, and he jumped in the river.
An hour later, his body would be recovered by a dive team. His death, the medical examiner ruled, a suicide. And yet, just one day earlier, Landrum was released from this Detroit psychiatric hospital, deemed well enough to be out on his own.
He's not here. He's okay. I don't know where there's no sign of him.
How something like this could happen, experts say, is the result of a state mental health system where demand is great and beds are few. It forces some of our sickest patients in and out of a revolving door of treatment where the stays get shorter and the sick get sicker. Much of Nasir's struggle with mental illness is told here at Wayne County Probate Court in a file that dates back years. At least 5 times in 7 years, loved ones, physicians, and even police tried to get Nasir help, seeking court-ordered treatment in private hospitals. The first petition was filed in 2012 by a social worker. Nasir thought his dad and brother were terrorists. He went to get a gun to harm them. A physician said he suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. Nasir was hospitalized and out within 2 weeks.
I feel money should be abolished. That's the real root of Satan.
The next year, it was Landrum's sister who tried to get him help, telling a judge that he walked into his neighbor's home speaking incoherently. A psychiatrist said he was delusional, made threatening statements. He was hospitalized at Detroit Sinai Grace and released after a week and a half.
He just started running eastbound on Grand River, crossing 8 Mile.
In 2017, Nasir Landrum walked into a Farmington Hills bank talking about killing someone. When police arrived, he said he was under the direction of aliens and talked about casting spells. Police didn't arrest him. They asked that he be hospitalized. There's no record of how long his treatment lasted. It would not be the last time he'd need it.
This is a poster case of one of the major problems we have in our mental health system.
Mark Reinstein is the CEO of the Mental Health Association in Michigan, who says demand for psychiatric beds has never been higher. Since the 1990s, the number of community psych beds has fallen by nearly 30%.
If they believe they've gotten someone to the point that he or she no longer has suicidal thoughts, that's the way the system operates now, then it's time to go.
In January of this year, Nasir was as bad as he'd ever been. Doctors said he was exhibiting bizarre behavior, refusing to take medications, telling them he needs to be free. He was hospitalized, deemed on January 3rd a danger to himself and others, but only 5 days later, he was well enough to be out. Just not for long. 6 months later, another petition. Doctors wrote he was grossly delusional, paranoid, unpredictable. The judge on the case ordered Nasir to spend up to 30 days in a hospital. He was out in less than 2 weeks.
I was working over here.
Juan Alessandro was working along the Detroit riverfront when he came face-to-face with Nasir less than a day after Stonecrest released him.
In his eyes, he was disoriented, so I don't know how much medication he was on. I said, "Sir, is everything okay?" And he instantly pulled out a yellow nylon rope. He stretched it out over his head and said, "We're all free," and plunged right in.
Why do we keep doing the same thing over and over again? Everyone says we know we need to do something to make things better, but no one does.
In a statement, Stonecrest Hospital's CEO said in part, fatal incidents are exceptionally rare and extremely difficult to predict clinically. The clinical determination on whether to admit a patient and when to discharge a patient is made by the attending psychiatrist in consultation with the other members of the clinical support team. We offer our sincere and profound condolences to the patient's family. You can read the full statement right now at WXYZ.com, but just how rare are deaths like these really? Well, in just the last 2 years, at least 3 other patients died within 2 days of leaving Stonecrest. How did state watchdogs respond? That's part 2 of our investigation coming up on 7 Action News at 6.
And he had such a long history behind
A very
him.
established history, and he had tried to get help. Family members tried to get him help. Police tried to get him help, and it still ended tragically.
So sorry, Ross. Thank you so much.